Good morning. This is Randall Ray with the IC Bus Group. We'd like to welcome everyone. We are going to be talking on our Connected series today with Bendix. Speaking from Bendix will be Kyle Swanziger, application engineer from Bendix Corporation. Also with us, as always, Alan Stegish, our director of service for IC Bus. We appreciate you tuning in for this. We've gone through a lot of programs. We're halfway through the sessions, if you can believe that already. We started this back in May, and we have sessions planned out through, as you can see, mid-October. So this is collision mitigation, a new feature that we added standard into our CE product and RE earlier, about a year ago, at least maybe a year and a half ago. It's been a great success, and Kyle is going to tell us much more about it and take us through some examples, its benefits, and some of its service procedures as well, I believe. So Kyle, thank you. We also, one more quick thing. We do have the Q&A working on the lower right-hand side of your screen, so please feel free to use that. Kyle?
Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are in the country right now. Again, just a quick introduction to myself, Kyle Swanziger. I'm an application engineer. I sit on site at Navistar, and I work with their engineers on a daily basis, helping to release new product and current and support as well. So just a quick overview of what I'm going to dive into here. A little bit of Bendix ESP, and then the collision mitigation, which is the main topic here, which will be the Wingman Advanced and the Wingman Fusion, and we'll talk about the differences between those. And then some new future products that are coming with IntelliPark, and then how Safety Direct also comes into play here. We'll be covering the safety technologies and a little bit of diagnostic and technical support as well towards the end. And then some resources that you can take with you in the future if you have other questions on Bendix products, some places that you can go to help get some answers. So looking at this here, the history of IC Bus and a lot of the safety technologies that have been added throughout the years, you can see in the recent years, they're being a lot more compressed together, where there's a lot more focus on new safety programs. And you can see collision mitigation first comes in here as a warning system back in 2000 and 2008. So that's been the basis where we started, and we've continued to add new technology to that to be able to add either lane departure warning or be able to use brakes rather than just notifying the driver that there is vehicles in front of us. So why collision mitigation for school buses? So as we all know, accidents happen. Nobody sets out on the road looking to get into an accident in any given day. And school buses, they're carrying our most precious cargo. So we want to make sure that we do everything that we can to make these vehicles as safe as possible. And collision mitigation is a big piece to this, since it is just an enhancement for the driver. So collision mitigation doesn't replace the driver. That's a key point that I want to make clear here. It's only here to help. So if the driver is distracted or a little bit drowsy, as school bus routes start early in the morning and there's a lot of kids on the bus, you could see how those are easily able to happen. This can help apply the brakes either earlier or completely if the driver doesn't use the brakes here. It also helps against erratic drivers in front of you. If you are using the cruise control option with it, if someone is using the brakes in front of you and falls below your cruise control, then this will help to keep your following distance at a healthy amount to be able to stop in time. NHTSA has recommended stability and CMS for school buses. This just proves that this stuff works. We're not just out here preaching about new products that we have released. This is real stuff. It definitely helps avoid accidents that otherwise weren't avoided. And the best way to understand how the system works and how well it operates, there's some videos online, and there's some links later in this presentation that'll take you to that. I recommend you go out there. There's a ton of video out there of how these systems work, how close you get to the vehicle before it actually applies the brakes and still stops in time. It's very eye-opening to see it from the driver's perspective. So it was informed to me earlier that this image here is a little bit outdated, so I will talk about the differences. The fusion radar and camera combined are not available everywhere as of yet, but they're approved in most states, and here it shows that there are a lot of states that it is not. But the key places to remember are California, Washington, and Oregon does not have the camera enabled, so it is just Wingman Advanced. North Carolina and South Carolina is only Wingman Advanced as well. And then Virginia has collision mitigation coming in 2021 that requires the district to request CMS from the state director, who will then allow cruise control activation. All right, so how can CMS help? It doesn't just affect the driver of this vehicle. That school bus is carrying the students who are trying to get to school. It is also the property of itself is also quite expensive as well. So the avoidance of an accident can reach many places. It's good to know that your drive to school is always going to be safe. So a little bit of background, autonomous vehicles. So collision mitigation often gets associated with autonomous vehicles since it's kind of a stepping stone, or it's been discussed as that. The different levels of automation are shown on the right here. Level 0 would be what school buses have been ever throughout the years beforehand, with almost no automation whatsoever. The CMS falls into level 1, which is it's just features that are basically helping the driver, but they do not. If the driver wants to, he can override every one of the actions that CMS takes. As you start getting towards level 3 and on, that's when vehicles are what I will call autonomous, where it's starting to take, where the driver either doesn't have to pay attention times or is removed altogether, which is what level 5 is. But as we stand today, level 1 is just helping the driver in any way that we possibly can. And all of these features on the left, ESP, Wingman Advanced, Fusion, and Telepark, all of these are features that will help the driver on a daily basis. So this chart on the right here is a pretty good indication of what we're trying to do with CMS. So it's collision mitigation rather than collision avoidance, because we want to avoid applying the brakes too early and have some false interventions. We want the driver to be in control whenever possible. So when we're looking at this chart here, a crash that would have ordinarily been either a fatality, we can reduce the severity to that to maybe just an injury. Or if it was an accident that would have been just an injury, we can reduce that to a property damage. So if you want to think about it as you're decreasing the magnitude of this accident by one tier here. And all you have to do to pay for these systems is avoid one accident or reduce the severity of one. And you can see that the cost of outfitting an entire fleet of buses is far less than the cost that one accident would bring to this location. So this is, again, iterating this. The initial investment of both stability control and collision mitigation, which again, ESP, which is the stability program, and Wingman Advanced, the collision mitigation, are both standard on IC bus today. Those are relatively low initial investment as compared to some of the other things that you can see here. So, electronic stability program. talk through a little bit of details on this. This is a group of sensors that are arrayed across the vehicle that are looking at what the driver is wanting out of the vehicle and what the vehicle is actually doing. So it has a steering wheel sensor, a yaw sensor, which is the pitch of the vehicle, and then it also controls the roll. So if the driver is inputting a 15% turn to the right and the vehicle is seeing a rotation of 30%, we know that the vehicle is doing things that the driver is not intending to, and we can apply brakes at different wheel ends to try to bring that vehicle back to alignment with what the driver is expecting. This has been a mandated standard on tractor trailers, and it is widely spread here on IC bus as well. We've had the ESP program since back into the 90s, so this is not a new technology by any means, but it is a definite necessity. So the Wingman Advanced, when we are talking about this, this is a radar-only collision mitigation. You can see it, it's kind of hard to see in this picture here, but the radar is located in the bumper in that circle to the right here. It's easily visible from the outside of a vehicle. If you're ever outside of a bus that has the radar there, you will easily be able to see it. It sends out radar up to 500 feet away, and it's a small cone, so it's trying to look for something that is directly in front of the bus. So it needs to be pointed directly outwards, and it can't be obstructed. Another thing to remember here, since this is a radar-only system, it is not going to pick up like deer or people. It's only metallic objects that are going to be able to reflect back and be seen by this vehicle. It needs to have the ESP program as a basis to do this, since there is braking that occurs without the use of a foot pedal. It needs to have the componentry that ESP already provides to be able to do these functions. So this is a snapshot of the DIU that is in the cab of every CMS equipped vehicle. And you can see that the DIU gives you a little bit more information of what is going on at the time. So at the bottom, you'll see there the following distance alerts. It should have a number to the right in that vehicle there that'll tell you how far your following distance is. This is saying that you are pretty close in your following distance here, but then it also has stationary object alerts. And then during the, before it applies the brakes, it gives you 3 levels of warning, and then it retards the engine, and then it will go ahead and apply the brakes. So the very last thing that it's doing is intervening if it doesn't have to. Sometimes in a accident situation, it doesn't go through all of these steps. It skips around because time is of the essence at that point. But if you're slowly approaching up to a vehicle, you will get all of these alerts in order. Wingman Fusion. So this is very similar to the Wingman Advanced system that we have, except now we've added a camera into the mix. What does this camera do for us? It's looking out for vehicles in front of the vehicle as short range and broad. So it's looking in both your lane and the lanes adjacent to it. So it's picking up oncoming traffic sometimes. It's picking up vehicles in front of you, to the side of you, and in conjunction with the radar, it's labeling the speed of these vehicles and the distance that it is from these vehicles. So now that we have 2 points of information with the radar and the camera, when say the camera sees something and says, "Hey, I see a vehicle 100 feet ahead of us and it's traveling at this speed," and the radar confirms with it, now we are a lot more confident that that vehicle exists and that it is actually a vehicle. And this allows us to brake earlier or make a better that the system will do. So the Wingman Fusion offers a lot better ability than the Wingman Advanced, but the Wingman Advanced still has a lot of the same capabilities. Some other things that get added in on top of this are lane departure warning. So since the camera can read the lane markings, if you start exiting your lane, it can know that you're leaving your lane, and it'll give you a haptic sound to tell you to get back into your lane. It also has speed sign recognition. So it's reading speed signs, and if you are above 10 miles per hour above the speed limit, it'll dethrottle the vehicle for a number of seconds to get the driver's attention that he is traveling much faster than he should be. So again, as these are a lot of things I discussed already, it also has the ability to brake on stationary vehicles. So the Wingman Advanced variant only alerts on stationary objects, but the Wingman Fusion, since we're a lot more confident that it's not a bridge or not something that's off to the side of the road that we're picking up with the radar, we're more confident to be able to brake on that vehicle. So this here, that speed, CMS reduces speed up to 35 miles per hour. Basically what that is meaning is if you're traveling at 50 miles per hour and something suddenly stops directly in front of you, the CMS system is able today to pull 35 miles per hour out of that accident. So instead of hitting it at 15, you can imagine it hitting it at 15 miles per hour. So the severity of that accident is definitely mitigated. In the future, we are trending in the direction of being able to act sooner and quicker with new technologies that we have. So that number will be increasing, but that's where we stand today. So here's a quick overline of the things that you are getting with Wingman Advanced versus the things that you will get with Fusion. The overspeed alert, lane departure warning, alert prioritization. That's a big thing to remember here is when you have, say, a lane departure warning and a collision mitigation, it doesn't matter which one comes first. It's always going to prioritize the one that is most severe. So even if you're leaving your lane, it's not going to not do its collision mitigation warnings because you're leaving your lane. So it's always going to give you the information that is most prevalent to you at the time. So future of Fusion. So we are currently always working to increase our capabilities and to give the end customer a better product. And some of the things that we're currently working on that are coming shortly are multi-lane AEB. So this is if you're changing lanes, and there's two targets that are in front of you, it's not going to ever drop the target in front of you to then reacquire the new target and then have to restart its collision mitigation process. It's able to see multiple lanes and continue the braking throughout the lane change. Enhanced collision mitigation, which would be pulling more speed out of each stop. And then highway departure braking, which that is if we realize that you are going outside of a white line on the right-hand side and you're not slowing down, if you were asleep and you were going off of the road, this will be able to apply the brakes because it knows that you are fully outside of your lane, that you are in the berm of the road, and it'll bring you to a stop, even if you are asleep or not able to make the brake yourself. So Safety Direct, this is a web-based portal. This is a web-based portal that is linked with our systems like ESP and collision mitigation. And that gives regular updates on like a fleet of drivers. So it counts like harsh braking events or number of collision mitigation events or ESP events. Also track like overspeed signs and stuff like that. So this is not designed to be a tool to get the drivers in trouble, but as a training tool to help people understand how their driving can be causing the system to react the way that it is, or could be putting themselves in harm's way. It can be set up to do video capture as well. So this is a thing that I've seen personally is some driver, okay, this instance, a driver was driving down the freeway and the car in front of them, the hood popped up onto their car and they slammed on the brakes. And the truck was a little bit too close maybe, but it ended up hitting that vehicle. So when that case file went to the courts, the driver said that the hood popped up because the truck had run into the back of the vehicle. So this is obviously not the truck driver's fault, but this video, as soon as it was showed in court, it immediately got this case thrown out because they had proof and evidence that this was not their fault whatsoever. So moving on to IntelliPark, this is not currently released, but we are in the process of doing that. This is replacing the push-pull valves, the MV3 that is in the dash now that operates the spring brakes. So this is taking the air components out of the dash and putting them underneath. This also offers the opportunity to have interlocks added into it. Since it is a electric controlled valve, we can add in ways to stop rollaways from happening. So basically, today, if you push in the PPDC or you pull it out to park the vehicle, if you do not fully release it or you're on flat ground and you don't do it at all and you jump out of the bus, it can start to roll over the matter of next couple of minutes. Whereas this system it can be set up a number of different ways, with the interlock being on your seat. So if you step up from the seat, it'll automatically apply the park brakes, or if you open the door, there's a number of ways that this can be set up for this. But it's just to help prevent people walking away from the bus and the vehicle rolling away. So again, these are electric controlled valves. So the buttons that are in the bus currently today, if you've ever pulled them before, they have that sting to it as you're pulling them out, or it's a little bit hard to push them in because they're pneumatic controlled, and those buttons pop out and in based on the pressure that is behind them. So this is removing that as an issue, and it also gives you feedback directly if it's currently on or off with the lights that are there. Whereas today, the positioning of the valve is sometimes hard to see, especially in a bus which doesn't have the second button to compare it with. The means of this are primarily the same as an MV3 today, are now pulled out of the dash. So when you have to do service on this, you don't have to run air lines up into the dash as well. So this is pulled away. Things to keep in mind. So if the camera or the radar or any single component of this is blocked for whatever reason, this still work to the best of its ability. You will get radar blind or camera blind as faults that show up. It is also key to make sure that the radar is aligned, or when you're replacing the camera, that it is positioned correctly, because if it is looking or it's position to be pointing at the wrong area, you can get, or the system will not operate optimally because it's not looking at the places where it should be. And Wingman and Fusion are retrofittable. As long as you have ESP, you can have Wingman Advanced or Fusion added to your bus. So here's a list of some of the videos I was talking about before. Some of them are on the IC Bus YouTube channel, and some of them are on Bendix YouTube channel. But there is a plethora of information based on collision mitigation that are very valuable to see how the system operates, both CMS and ESP. So taking a look at some diagnostic and technical support. So looking at the history of our electronic systems and where we've come from to where we're going. Starting back in the 90s, we came up with ABS and ATC, and then we transitioned that into adding in more capability with stability control. And as you can see, as we move through this and adding ACC and then Fusion, every step we make, it's not a new technology that we're bringing to the table. We're adding new functionality to the technology we already have. So we're not starting at square one every time we come up with something new. We're constantly making our product better. And that gives us a lot of years of experience with how these systems operate on a vehicle. So stability program, it's one of its primary uses is to stop a vehicle from rolling. So I get the question a lot is a good driver, shouldn't he not need these systems because he already can know what his vehicle is doing and can operate just as good as these systems can? And the response to that is by the time you typically realize that your rear wheel is off the ground, it's already too late. So if you apply the brakes after that wheel has left the ground, you're not going to be able to bring that vehicle to a stop or bring it back into a controlled situation. You only have the outside wheel that is useful. So this system can act as soon as it senses that yaw start to pitch. It can start applying the brakes to make sure that wheel is always useful in a braking situation. It also has the capability of applying the brakes to individual wheel ends. So if a driver puts his foot on the foot brake, he's getting some type of braking on all four wheel ends. This has the ability to, if the right front wheel is slipping and the left front wheel is not, it can stop or pull some of the braking out of that right front so that it is not locked up anymore. So this gives you a lot of better braking situations than you can normally with just a foot brake valve. The yaw stability, again, talked about before, is it's sensing your pitch of the vehicle. So again, if that's rotating more than the driver is inputting with the steering wheel sensor, then it's going to react to try to stop from spinning out or losing traction on low mu surfaces. Some of the other components that are here is a steering wheel sensor, which is connected to the steering wheel on the shaft there. The yaw rate sensor, which is positioned towards the rear of the vehicle. And then some other load sensors and wheel speed sensors to get some inputs on what the vehicle is actually seeing. As you can see here, the components circled in blue are the new components that are added with ESP, and then the purple ones are the ones that got added with ABS. So ESP still utilizes the same features as ABS does, but it has more enhanced on top of that. Some of the ones that are notable are the ATR6, which is in the steer axle up there, and then the pressure sensors, and then the yaw rate sensor. Here. The ATR6 is a relay valve that is pneumatically and electronically actuated. So this gives the ability for ESP to apply the brakes without the foot brake valve intervening. So as you can see here, another instance of how the system is working. You can see in the front left that wheel end has pressure going to it, whereas the modulators are holding back the pressure to the other three. It's just individual wheel control is the point of this slide. So some troubleshooting of the ESP components. The major codes that you'll get in ACOM Pro for the steering sensor will be an SAS not calibrated, which would just mean that you have to calibrate the SAS through the standard procedure, and then some other DTCs. And ACOM does a pretty good job of running you through all of the different diagnostic paths that you'll need to triage these type of issues. Here's some other ones for the yaw rate sensor. Can have like a signal out of range, calibration errors, plausibility errors. Plausibility errors are basically that the component is seeing something that's not or shouldn't be possible to happen, which means that either something's not connected right or it is receiving incorrect data. There are the wheel speed sensors. These are something that is a little bit more common to have issues with, and this can be as easy as pushing the sensor back in or having to recalibrate the sensors as well. So for Wingman Advanced and Wingman Fusion, aligning the radar is very key, because if the radar is sending a signal up to 500 feet out, if your pitch of that is off by, like, say, 1/2 degree, you could be looking at a completely different lane than what's in front of you. So this being aligned is very, very important for the system to operate as it should. And if it is not aligned correctly, typically within a number of miles, usually less than 15, 20 miles, it will detect that it has an issue, and it'll display some lights on the dash to tell you so. But all of these tools that are here are capable of realigning the radar. Some of these are a little bit outdated since they are dated back to when we had our older radar, but the future one is the top right here. You want to make sure that the variation from left to right is less than 3 millimeters or an 1/8 of an inch from side to side, and you'll also need to update it in ACOM to make sure that the alignment values are the same. So how do you do the alignment here? So the bottom left-hand screw is always the same. You don't adjust that one at all when you're trying to change the vertical pitch of it, and then the one on the bottom right is usually on the hump of it to get it the way that you want it to. Into combo. This is our new diagnostics software. So we had a third-party basic the software that we have here, since ACOM 6 was designed by Bendix maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago. It was time for it to get an update. And with Norgren going ahead and helping us produce this, it gives us the ability to take the ACOM questions a dedicated line to help with that, so that our 1-800 air brake, our technicians there don't have to also carry that hat. So it gives us an ability to better support technical questions. The type of material is ComPro. Stuff that it's just extra stuff added on as well. So the ACOM reports that this pulls, instead of pulling 4 separate ACOM reports as you did in ACOM 6, which was the SDP, the radar, the camera, and the EC80, this pulls it all in one. So it saves a bunch of time, since we know that anyone who's used ACOM before knows that it doesn't exactly move super fast. ACOM Pro is very responsive, and you can pull these reports much faster, which these reports give you both inactive and inactive codes, and then a little quick summary of what's going on here. But if you take it into actual ACOM Pro, you can look at the triage path, and it'll give you a couple different steps to try to fix the faults that you have here, and give you a little bit of summary of what the fault actually is. So this is a lot better than it was previously, where it would just give you a quick snapshot of what was wrong. This actually try to solve the issue as well. Integrated into this as well, there is the service data sheets and literature for all of our components, as well as some of other components that are on the vehicle that may interact with our systems, as well as all of the OEM's literature. So things to remember on this is the system needs to update at least 3 times a year. That is the plan updates for it. And it'll air out if it doesn't connect to internet within 45 days. So it has a 45-day ping rate. As said before, the interface has changed quite a bit, so things are typically easier to find. The buttons are a lot easier to understand. It also has roll call, which means that as soon as you connect through ACOM Pro, it automatically pulls and populates all of the ECUs of the vehicle, instead of having to manually populate them as it was in the past. So this also has full coverage of all of the legacy future looking. It also has all the same capabilities of looking at older vehicles as well, and being able to connect to those. It is a subscription-based tool now, so they can be activated either through per users, or it can be given as like a fleet of keys, which would be one key name or key number for a number of users, and that would be predetermined based on how you would like to set up the subscription. It still has full coverage of all the next generation products that are coming out as well. So this will all be added into the ACOM Pro functionality as they get released. Support and additional resources. 1-800 air brake is the best place to call if you have any technical questions that you need answered quickly. If you're looking for more information on Bendix products, brakeschool.com. It is 100% free. You just create a username, and that's only to track what you've or what sessions you've gone through and what you haven't for yourself. These are really good tools to learn more about the product and see how it works on a deeper level. And then there's a couple key documents here, which these can be found on bendix.com. The service data information, which is has a lot more in-depth information on each of these products as well. Again, the disclaimer in here, collision mitigation is a mitigation tool. It's here to help. Just have to add that into each presentation for legal reasons. Collision mitigation is available standard on IC Bus or Wingman Advanced. Fusion is an option, and ESP is also standard. And more safety technologies to come.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Kyle, we appreciate the update quite a bit. Alan, you want to tell us what's coming up?
Hey, Randy, one thing, obviously, Kyle, thank you for the great presentation. You know, there's a bit of sales in there, there's service. Most importantly, the resources that are available for to work with the customer and the information for service. And I want to thank Kyle again for the support and certainly Bendix. Don't forget that all these presentations are being stored on the IC Bus MRC and also IC Bus YouTube. Surveys, we can't get better unless you guys send back what we need to do better. So if you get a chance, complete the surveys. We'd like that. Thank you for all your attendance. That's all I got. Questions?
That'll wrap us up for this week, and we'll see everyone again in 2 weeks when we have, what's our next one? Let me look at
Next one is Technology 2020.
Oh yeah, Technology 2020, 2021. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So, cool. And that is on August 20th. So look forward to it. And again, that concludes us for today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.